Yes. Thank you. You're too kind.
Yes.
So today, importance of sales presentations in any sales setting.
Yeah. And, for real estate agents specifically, to begin on the listing side, you need one on the buy side as well. But the worst thing for me, Jake, is when I lose a deal and I walk out of that deal and I haven't lost it yet, but I think like 5 or 6 things that I should have said that could have been made a difference in the outcome. That was the most frustrating. Second most frustrating was one of the first times I got a listing. A guy said, "Well, what makes you different? Why should I list with you?" I said, "Well, because I'm lucky." He was like, "What?" I'm lucky. Like that was all I had, right? So all those things
Did
suck.
you get that listing?
I did, and I sold it. And I was like, "I told you, told you I'm lucky, bro." But I had a broker pull me aside one time, and she tried to give me this advice, but it wasn't delivered properly. She said, the more systemized you are in your business, the more professional you'll appear to your customer. And I didn't know what that meant. It was kind of like a parable at the time. But I think specifically it pertains to not just, transaction coordination, but more so being able to have consistency in the way you deliver your value proposition.
Yeah. And we've been in full out system mode here for a minute here at House Chat. And so you just start seeing it and just where you think you have systems. And now when you put on the old system glasses, it's like you see nothing but lack of systems and where the systems are lacking.
Yes.
And where there's inconsistency, right? Like it's like the telltale sign of a leak somewhere,
or sometimes like just a cap in what you're able to accomplish, right? So like both those things are telltale signs of not having a system in place. And specifically, the system that makes all systems easier is a system for getting business, right? If you got business coming in, you'll be able to go in and backfill all the rest of the stuff. If you don't have business coming in, you're in dire straits and you're in panic mode and you can't even think beyond that. So, for me, having a system of creating, generating, converting business is always going to be the first one.
Yes. And you said something recently to our team, and you were like, if you think you don't have a system, you do have a system, right?
Yeah.
And that's always rang true, because I've always been like a bit of a contrarian when it comes to like the typical sit down and do a PowerPoint, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I know I would do something enough to where I had a groove and I had a process that I was following.
Yep.
And I could write it out, you know what I mean? And so, every script that I've ever written, everything that I've ever done has always been like following the same kind of thing. You got an intro, a little short story, presentation, close.
Yeah. Well, we recently just bought a product. It was $6,500 a month for this product, for the business. And the dude had a PowerPoint presentation. And like, as a consumer, I really appreciated that because it was nice, well thought out, made good use of my time, hit all of the points. And then I was able to make an accurate decision afterwards. Right. And so I like PowerPoint presentations. They are a little cumbersome to get in somebody's house and open up your laptop or iPad. But personally, I just love PowerPoints because, it's the highlights of what it is that you're going to go over, to be able to communicate well.
Yes.
And it does have, air of sophistication to it as far as professionalism is concerned. Like if you were in an executive meeting in a Fortune 500 company, right, you'd probably be expected to have some type of PowerPoint presentation. You know what I mean? If you just came in with like a flip book, probably not going to be as compelling and people are going to look at you like you're an alien, you know? Yeah. So same when it comes to listing presentations. I think, my preference is still PowerPoint.
How long was your listing presentation?
I could like ring it out for a great period of time, maybe 45 minutes. Usually it's probably about 20 to 30. I remember I had this listing one time, and this agent out of town wanted to have his client steal it. And, we kept countering back, and he's like, he had known about me somehow because he's like, well, just because you're good at giving a presentation doesn't mean you're good at pricing. And I was like, who is this guy? You're wrong on both counts, right? I'm actually not that great at giving a presentation, but thanks for the vote of confidence there. Yeah. But no, man, I just, I always had the ability, especially in one-on-one sales, because you can gauge their reaction to the things that you're putting out there, and you can morph it over time. And, you've really nailed it. Like when the cost is going to be an issue in their mind, especially on a buyer's presentation. Well, what's this going to cost me? Well, that's the great news. I'm going to ask for it this way. Right. And so, I've always followed the format of create the problem, antagonize the problem, provide the solution when it comes to those type of presentations. So an example of that is like, on the buy side, right? Like if you go with a normal agent, they're going to pick out 6 homes, try to show you, 5 and sell you 1, right? And so the problem is the wrong person is deciding the homes that you're going to see. Here's what that looks like, right? Et cetera, et cetera. In contrast, what we're going to do is this, right? We're going to give you access to all the homes you're going to choose, right? And it's true, and it's also not true. We're still going to narrow down the list when it comes time to showing because you can only look at so many, but it puts the value in their hands. It clearly communicates the problem, which is everybody else, right? And it makes me into the solution. And I just love those type of sales presentations. You're not saying bad about anything or anybody, right? You're just creating doubt in the process of the competition. Yeah.
And I've seen that in a lot of presentations where because in the realtor code of ethics and all that stuff, you're not supposed to.
You can't talk bad about the competition. You can't say anything negative.
Yep. Yeah. But you can educate the consumer about averages and things, right? Like, the average realtor sold 4 houses last year in the state of whatever you're in, right?
Yeah. I sold 24, right?
Exactly. Yeah. 6 times better than the average.
Who you want to do business with?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then just like if they are, a lot of people will interview 3 people, whatever. Obviously, asking to go last is one of the best things that you can do. If you're not last, I've seen something work really well where you like leave questions to ask that everybody else is going to fail at.
100%.
You just leave the little booby traps there for people to be able to step on while they're trying to get your listing.
And it's educating the consumer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With so much value.
It's a real cool way to do it for sure. I always like being last if I could. And then just asking them again why they didn't, go ahead and list with the other people. And now they're free to tell me all the things that they hated about them, right? Now they're just reinforcing doing business with me instead of with the other agents. But, I think crafting a presentation like that doesn't take as much as you would think, right?
Right.
It's the ability to communicate expert knowledge. And when you even come out of real estate school, you have expert knowledge, whether you're aware of it or not. And I think all too often we don't put enough emphasis on that, right? It's like, oh, everybody knows this type of thing. And it's just communicating those things in a consistent way that gives you the value. I'm always shocked when somebody doesn't have a presentation. I've listed like some commercial properties, and the commercial agents, I'm like, well, what are you going to do? And they're just, they're just winging.
Yep.
I'm like, this is unbelievable to me. Like, these are the best agents in town, and this is their game plan. Like, if I were to come in, I would dunk on them because I would have a presentation that would say why everybody else was the problem. I was the only solution.
Yep.
And naturally lead them down the path of doing business with me. And it, at the end of any good presentation should be some form of risk reversal, right? Like at the end of my listing presentation was always a satisfaction guarantee. You can fire me at any time, right? If you're dissatisfied with my service, the problem with a real estate agent is you don't know whether you got a good one or a bad one until you're locked into a 6-month contract. We're aware of that. So here's how we help you with that problem, right? And very, very rarely did somebody come and be like, oh, I want to cancel this thing, unless they were trying to cut me out of the commission, in which case a conversation usually revealed that, you know? Yeah.
The other thing with presentations, like to put it together, the one thing that works really well is when you're going through, obviously, having a lot of at-bats helps dial in your presentation more than anything.
Oh man, does it ever.
So if you do not have a constant source of being able to get listing presentations and appointments with buyers, like solve that problem.
Yeah.
If you are a house chat referral partner, you get to go to the university to get access to your presentation.
Right.
So you have at least a starting point, and you can kind of customize that based off of your area, whatever little things you want to have.
Yeah.
But the big thing is that as you hear objections, like you just work that back into the presentation. So now you're attacking it. You have a way to handle it the right way.
Yeah. You want to take their objections out of their mouth and address them immediately, right? Like the big elephant in the room, and just talk about that.
Yep.
Yeah. trying to skirt around it. You know, I always joke like a bad real estate agent, if there's a hole in the roof, will like try to show around the hole in the roof, you know? Like, dude, walk right over to that thing and be like, hey, there's a freaking hole in the roof. If you buy this place, you're going to have to pay to fix that. Are you good with that? Right? And I would always tell people like, hey, look, none of these are my houses, so you can't hurt my feelings.
Right.
So I just want you to be brutally honest so that I can know what you're thinking, so that I can help you find the right place, you know, that much faster.
Yep.
And most people resonate with that because their expectation is like a car salesman, right? They expect you to take them around. Oh, look at the cabinets. These are mahogany, beautiful mahogany. I don't know what kind of cabinets they are. I've never been in this freaking house before, right? I'm looking at it like you are,
Yeah.
you know? And the other thing is like, giving them time to talk, you know? So
It appears to be some kind of wood.
yeah. I think people have these preconceptions of what they're supposed to do as a real estate agent that are just freaking crazy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I should know all about construction and I should know all about this and I should know all about that. No, you really shouldn't. You just need to be able to help them mitigate their risk throughout the transaction, making sure that they get, you know, title, they get inspections, they don't lapse in deadlines, right? Like, you're not supposed to be an expert on every facet of home building. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For example, and even if you are talking about that, could put you in a bad spot anyway, as far as liability is concerned. I mean, one of the things that you never want to do with sales is say something negative, right? So, you know, in general, unless it's the big elephant in the room. So objections are always the big elephant in the room. Having those in the presentation, right? You're probably thinking X, right? Here's how we do Y to mitigate X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the listing side, what was the most common things that people would give you?
As far as objections?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to remember because I always had such a good presentation.
That it was
It was like, yeah, it would never really hardly exist. I always charged a little higher commission than average, and then I charged it a referral fee. And generally they would, like, it maybe be 20% of the time. Somebody would be like, oh, what's that? Well, I would just joke, you know, it was like, oh, that's my beer money. And I'd flip the page, you know, I'll buy a beer after. that would be the response that I would get. They would laugh.
Right.
And if they wanted to circle back to it, I'd just say, hey, look, you know, I'll negotiate the commission depending on, you know, the deal. My job is to get a deal together, not stand in the way of one. So, you know, I don't want to start that from a deferred position. Does that make sense? And they'd be like, yeah, all right, cool. And then they would sign, you know. I never really had strong commission objections that ever cost me a deal because I was able to mitigate them and get around them. I never had really any objections like, oh, XYZ agent has a better track record than you, because by the time I was done with the presentation, that would be irrelevant. And I think that that's a lot of the apprehension that agents have. Like, well, what would I talk about? I'm not number one. Well, everybody's freaking number one. So it's not even a differentiator, right?
Right.
My team's number one. My brokerage is number one. I'm number one. I'm number one in this neighborhood. I'm number one in this price range. I'm number one. Yeah. So like those things are irrelevant. What is relevant is what they're interested in, right?
Yes.
What they're interested in is fast, most amount of money, you know, least amount of hassle, and making sure that you're not just going to ghost them after the fact. One of the things that, you know, when you get 100 listings, you have 100 transactions to worry about or 100 homes for sale to worry about, but the customer only has one. So they're thinking about you all the time. And they're like, well, what's this guy doing to sell my house? He's really busy. So having a system in place to have a call to them once a week, right? To just let them know, hey, here's what's going on. You know, I know we don't have any showings. We haven't had any showings for a couple of weeks. Probably time to talk about a price reduction, right? Just systems.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, that would be something to talk about in the listing presentation, right?
Right.
Like, hey, most agents, they list your home, you know, they throw an ad out, they put it in the MLS, and then you don't hear from them again until it's time to renew the listing. Here's why that sucks for you, and here's what we do to fix it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then if they're interviewing another agent, and I wasn't last in, that's one of the questions, right? Like, what's your communication rhythm with me to make sure that my home gets sold? How often are you going to touch base with me? Yeah, all day. Right? Yeah. Even my family, when they go to hire agents in other towns and things of that nature, like same thing, you know, like here's what you want to ask, here's what you want to know. If you were getting brain surgery, right? Like I'd like to know some things about that neurosurgeon, right? Like, What's his track record?
Yes,
You know what I
right.
mean?
What's the success rate?
What's the success rate? Yeah.
We were just talking about skydiving the other day. Some of the guys wanted to go skydiving.
Yeah.
And we were looking at this site, and it was a lot cheaper than they thought it was. And it was like the website had like 212, 790 jumps so far. And then underneath it just said 12. And I was like, oh God. But it was like 12 awards or something that was. But I just saw 12 and I was like,
yeah. You know what most of them would ask me in the middle of my presentation? They'd be like, where did you go to school for marketing?
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome.
I'd be like, well, I didn't. The school Hard Knocks?
Hard Knocks?
Yeah.
So
Lake of the,
high school.
Lake of the Ozarks.
Right? The school of, I'm going to sell your house faster than anybody else, motherfucker. Yeah. That was it. That was the school. Right? Yeah.
I didn't get accepted there.
Yeah. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, you got to have some street cred. But the other thing that you kind of hit the nail on the head of, and it's the beauty of any really good presentation, is like making them feel like you understand their situation better than anyone that's ever been able to communicate.
Well, let's reveal the secret on how to do that. How do you do that, Jake?
You just guess.
No.
No, you listen, right?
Yeah.
And then like, but even you've been able to distill it down after being on however many hundreds and thousands of listening presentations that you've been on, right? You're able to distill it down to the most simple desires, and you can communicate it in a really simple way. Take a complex problem, communicate it in a simple way.
Yeah.
And it just makes people be like, oh my God, he's my guy. Right?
100%. My agents with our presentation would dunk on the former number one agent who would go herself.
Damn.
So she would be in competition with one of my agents from my office. They would walk out with the listing, not her. But the secret to being able to get people to believe that you really understand their problem is being able to communicate their problem clearly to them.
Yep.
Right. And you don't even have to answer and give them the answer. Just communicating the problem makes them believe you have the answer. And so, it's better when you do have the answer. Like that's the trifecta.
Right.
Yeah. But being able to communicate that and understanding what they're going through and what they're going to deal with is huge, know? Yeah. And for too many agents, they just wing it. They think winging it is sufficient and it's okay. And again, the pains of that, which if you'll allow me to talk about your pains for a moment.
Yes.
Are hitting a glass ceiling, burnout, right? Not being able to get past where you're at, being on the commissions roller coaster and having worry and anxiety and fear about where your next deal is coming from. See, just communicating that, you probably believe I have the answer, right? Like, I do have the answer. The answer is to have a good presentation and have a good way to have consistent up to bats, right? It's that simple.
Yep.
Yeah. Everything else works itself out in the wash, and you can work it out as you go, even if you're a shitty agent, like I was for a long time, right? Like, I'm not even going to give these examples, actually. I'm just going to omit those. But I'll just say this. There was a great deal of time in the beginning of my career where I just didn't know what the hell I was doing, and the training that I had didn't prepare me for, understanding some of these things. It's kind of like thinking that right? Just like communicating things that we know as agents to the consumer, you just assume that they know. And I didn't. And so it didn't make a difference. I still sold a bunch of real estate, but could have been a better process.
And this is where it gets so frustrating for some agents. And it's just like, release yourself into the world of sales and realize that you are in sales. Your real estate license as real estate salesperson.
Agreed.
And you just got to dive in, because so many people are so caught up in I'm the best agent. I give the best service.
I care the most.
Right. Which is a great thing.
But
don't get your ass kicked by a kid that doesn't know what they're doing because
100%.
they figured out how to sell before you did.
And market. I was in a Tony Robbins presentation, and he was talking about real estate agents, and he was like, I just recently hired an agent to buy my $13 million house, and I want you guys to tell me why I would have chose you. And like the answers in the room were just garbage, so bad. And same with the mortgage side. All right, well, why should I have chose you for financing? And like they have us huddle up, right? And they're like, okay, I'll discuss your things. I was like, everybody else go first. I was like, you guys, I'll give you mine. I didn't even get to mine on the real estate side, which was fine. I was going to raise my hand and say it because like just the whole room needed to hear it, but I didn't get there. On the mortgage side, I told the lady what to say. I was like, just say, I'll get you the lowest interest rate, lowest monthly payment, lowest down payment available to you. And you know what her response was? well, how can I do that?
Okay.
I was like, how can you not? That's
Right.
your job. People are either rate, term, or down payment shoppers, and that's it, right? It's the same thing with
Available to you.
yeah, available to you, right? Yeah, from me,
Not in the
on
history.
planet,
Yeah,
not in the history. Yeah, it's just being able to communicate value, and it was just crazy. One lady was like, "I'm gonna care so much about you. I'm gonna live, eat, and breathe your purchase of your home, and I'm gonna." And he was like, I believe her. That was a good answer. I was like, that was a horrible answer, right? The lady doesn't know what she's doing, and she's just grasping at straws, trying to, like be a fan.
Be passionate.
Yeah.
Like, I have a presentation I'd like to walk you through.
Yeah.
Please sit over here.
Yeah. 100%.
That's awesome.
It was crazy. And that's the way the industry works. And so, if you guys want some help with the presentation, if you want to check out a presentation, if I've Googled it before, there's not really much out there. And the reason why is because these things make agents so much money. There's no way they're going to share it. They don't want their competition to see. I had a guy ask me to record me one time, and I was like, absolutely not. That's not happening. No. And you know what happened to this guy? His name was Adolf, right? And he was like a real ball buster dude. And I was like, I'm not getting this listing. Not only did I get his listing, he called me up like 5 years later after I'd sold the business. And he was like, hey, I'm buying a house in this town. Is there anybody else who operates like you do, where you have like segmentation of labor and like a team? And I was like, bro, I'll look, but it's not like something that's standard across the industry, But he became that much of a fan. Like at first he wanted to record everything I said, I think to like use it against me if I didn't do it. I don't know. My initial thought was, competition research, but regardless, yeah, that's why there's not much information out there. But if you want some help with that, we'll help you.